This incredible story was told to me by a comrade who heard it from his grandfather. It was at the beginning of the German invasion of the USSR in the summer of 1941. Here is his first-person account. We went out simply, stomping our feet. There were 7 or 8 of us from different parts, so we got together. All of us had one rifle with a pouch and a nagan, and nothing to eat. I won't tell you in detail about all these difficulties. A lot has been told about them. Books have been written, movies have been filmed 100 times. I will tell you one thing. The sensations were disgusting. July 1941. And that's all we talked about. We stopped expecting that our main forces would come and drive the aggressor into his territory to defeat him there. We stopped wondering why things were not going the way we had been taught, contrary to all expectations. There was no use in such reasoning. It did not help us to live at all. My guts were tangled up in my stomach from hunger, my legs were buzzing, and everywhere I turned there was a German. Fed, armed, numerous, insolent, with harmonica, brave. There was no time to think. We had one task, to get to our own. They had to get a foothold somewhere. And we had one. I don't even remember his name. I don't even think he had a name. He was just a sapper. We didn't call each other by our first names or surnames, but by our buttonholes. Infantry, chemist, sapper. He had sapper buttonholes, black with a blue border. On the buttonholes, as it should be, a pickaxe with a shovel. And 4 triangles. Petty officer. Definitely enlisted. That's right. I could tell right away. I was a cadre myself by that time, so I could tell. We were commanded by a tank lieutenant. Right behind him in rank was a sapper, and then we, who had 2 corners, who had 1, or even none. The man, I mean the sapper, was a very ordinary man. Judging by his conversation, by his speech, he was definitely not a countryman, a city man. But he was simple, uneducated, a chauffeur perhaps, or a skilled turner or mechanic. There was something about him that made me want to think so. Before that incident, he hadn't shown anything special. He was like the rest of us. He didn't whine, he didn't brave. In short, a normal man who'd been through a lot. We all got out of the situation without much thinking and certainly without hysterics, and he was like the rest of us. He didn't stand out. But then, we were in a tight spot. The situation was difficult. Ahead of us there was a rather vast forest where we could take shelter. Only to get there we had to cross a large meadow, a completely open place, and cross a rivulet on a bridge. It was a small river, a small log bridge. At first glance, it was a simple matter. To walk along the meadow for half a kilometer, cross the bridge, and be done with it. Only there were already Germans at the bridge. An advance party, I suppose, or a reconnaissance group. They saddled the bridge reliably. 2 motorcycles, 5 men, and a hand machine gun. They settled down on the meadow, and there was no way to bypass them. And behind, on the road, there are Germans too. They're heading east, and they are starting already. You can hear the engines of motorcycles snooping through the sparse woods where we hid, not reaching the meadow. It is becoming clearer and clearer to us that we will not last long here. Sooner or later they would come upon us, and we, with our poor arsenal, would not be able to die heroically. They would shoot us to hell, not coming close, or take us warm, which seemed even worse than a heroic death to us according to our then upbringing. We were all sweating from tension and complete uncertainty. We squinted at the lieutenant. He was the commander, albeit a temporary one. He had to make the decision. He had to take the responsibility. But he must have gotten lost. It happens, even with cadres. He doesn't know what he's going to do, that's all. And the sapper suddenly says, "We'll get through this. The main thing is to keep up with me, move your feet, and everything will be fine." We stared at him like that. Are you out of your mind? They have a machine gun, 5 automatic rifles. We will be seen a mile away. He turned a little pale but continued calmly. Let's go through. I'll take their eyes away. I know how. My father taught me. We were so exhausted that no one had the strength to swear or laugh. Only one of us sighed a very doom-laden sigh. It was a clear day, sunny, summer. In such weather, one did not want to die. And the sapper, as if nothing had happened, began to do something. 5 of them, says as if to himself under his nose. So, we need 5. He broke off a couple of branches, broke them, and got 5 sticks. He drove them into the ground at the edge of the forest, trimmed them so that they were of equal length. He looked at them, at the Germans, squatted down and began to whisper something. His face became alien, unfamiliar, wrong somehow. It didn't last long. He got up, pulled on his uniform and said, "Let's go," and walked across the meadow at full height, not particularly fast, occasionally looking back at us, showing his hand. "Follow me." We, of course, stayed where we were. It was not bad to go head-on to the machine gun, but when he had already moved away about 200 meters, it became clear to us little by little that something strange was happening. Only one of the Germans had his back to us, and the others were looking at the meadow right at the sapper, and none of them paid the slightest attention to him. At least they changed their posture. At least one raised his machine gun. No, it was as if they really didn't see him, smoking, chatting, laughing at something of their own. And he's walking, closer and closer to them. He stopped looking back at us. And then it hit me. I didn't understand anything and didn't think about anything. I just saw that they did not react to the sapper in any way. And I took a risk. I took a few steps, with my heart in my heels. A few more, went faster. They don't see. They don't react. Then everyone followed me. And the lieutenant like a cute little guy. The sapper turned around, showed his hand. "Don't run, keep quiet." We took a step. The feeling was indescribable, and I remembered this trip for the rest of my life. We were walking straight at the Germans. They were getting closer and closer. We could clearly see every single button, eye color. We could smell with our noses how sweat was coming from them. But they did not see us, and do not see us, as if we became invisible, as in some book. That's how we passed them almost on tiptoe, dived into the forest and ran like that. Looking ahead, I'll tell you that we came to our own. 3 days later, some large part was retreating and we joined it. Only without the sapper. He'd been killed the day before, him and the chemist. A German fighter caught us again on a meadow, far from the forest, and started to chase us around the field like bunnies. There were no planes of ours in the sky, so he was free to do what he wanted. He was hooliganizing the bastard from nothing to do, amusing himself by his vile nature. The lieutenant shot the whole drum of a nagan revolver at him, but to no avail. It was a horror. We were running along the field, falling, running over, and he was spinning above us, whistling, it seems, over the top of our heads. When he shot, when he didn't, he was having fun as he could. First he hit the chemist, I heard him scream. Then he hit the sapper. He would have killed every last one of us on that meadow, like targets in a shooting gallery. But at one moment he suddenly went sharply into the sky, gained altitude and never came back. Maybe he ran out of ammo, or ran out of fuel, or maybe he got some kind of order on the radio. Hell knows. The important thing is, we survived. And he cut off the sapper. So the sapper couldn't avert his eyes from the pilot for some reason. Maybe it only worked on the ground against foot soldiers. Who knows? I've seen this trick once,